Today you can take some simple ingredients and make the most delicious focaccia bread, whether it's for an appetizer or just to go with your dinner. So delicious, so easy, especially when you use your bread machine. To get started, I'm going to chop some fresh rosemary, and I want about a teaspoon of this fresh rosemary to go into the dough, and then some of the rosemary is going to go into the topping. The rosemary for the topping is going to be a little bit more coarsely chopped than the rosemary that I'm putting into the dough. And I do love to use fresh rosemary for this focaccia bread recipe because it's so fragrant. It's just a feast for both your mouth and for your nose when you eat this bread. And I happen to have fresh rosemary growing in a pot outside my door, so it's a great way to use that nice fresh rosemary. You want to get started early in the day, giving yourself at least 3 hours in order to make your dough, bake your bread, and let it cool just a bit before you serve it. It is so delicious served warm, so you may want your timing to be close to the time that you're going to serve your focaccia bread. We're going to start by putting the wet ingredients into the bread machine first. So I have 1 cup of lukewarm water and 1/3 cup of olive oil. And olive oil is important because you want flavor in the dough of your focaccia bread. Now, you won't find me recommending a lot of single-use type kitchen equipment in my recipes, but I do recommend a bread machine. And why is that? Well, it's because it makes your life so much easier. I am going to have very little cleanup from this bread making experience. I don't have to get out a heavy mixer. I won't have flour and other things all over my countertop. I'll just have the pan that the dough is being made in. Makes my life so much easier. Next, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of sugar, granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 3 cups of bread flour. Now, you may ask, can I use all-purpose flour? You can, but bread flour is going to be better because it's higher in gluten. It will give you the texture that you want for focaccia bread. You'll also want to make sure that you fluff up your flour. You don't want to pack the flour into your cup measure. That's 2 cups. And then finally, 3 cups. I like to spread my flour around so it's rather even inside of the machine. And I'm going to sprinkle on 1 teaspoon of bread machine yeast. And now it's time to select the cycle for the focaccia bread, which is the dough cycle, and to start the machine working. So I'm going to do that. My dough cycle is number 8 on my machine. Then I hit start, and we'll hear it start to go. I'm going to let it go for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to check it to see what the consistency of the dough is. And if it's just right, I'll add the coarsely chopped rosemary to the dough. To check the dough, I'm going to poke it and make sure that it's soft enough. It's cleaning off the sides of the pan well, so the consistency is good. If your dough feels too hard, you can add 1 teaspoon of warm water at a time to see if you can loosen it up a bit. With my dough being the consistency that I want it to be, I'm going to add my coarsely chopped rosemary. I'm going to close the lid and let the bread machine finish its cycle. While your bread machine is doing all the hard work, you can work on the topping for the focaccia bread. And that's just 1/4 cup of nice, delicious olive oil, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like to use kosher salt. Your coarsely chopped rosemary. It's about 2 teaspoons more of the coarsely chopped rosemary, and 2 large cloves of fresh garlic that you have minced up very, very finely. We're going to mix all of that together. Turn the stovetop onto medium heat and let this gently warm up. As soon as you can smell the garlic, you want to take the pan off the heat. The final step in the topping is to cut some grape tomatoes from the garden, because they're just so delicious, in half. I'm using about 15 or 20. The tomatoes will really be the star of this focaccia bread, so you want them to be delicious. And once you have them all cut in half, take a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper and just sprinkle it over just a little bit and set them aside. I'm preheating my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And to prepare my pan, and I am using an old aluminum pan because it heats up perfectly. It means that your crust is going to be perfect on the bottom. A little olive oil in the pan, paper towel, just rub it around and up the sides. And your pan will be ready for your dough. With the dough cycle complete, I like to grease my hands with olive oil to remove the beautiful focaccia dough from the basket. And you can see that it's very soft, stretchy, and it's oh so beautiful. I'm pressing it into my lightly greased metal 9x13 pan. I'm going to finesse it. You'll find that it may resist. You want to gently press and press and press so that it will fit into the pan. Once you have your dough all pressed into the corners of your pan, then you want to make indentations into the dough with your fingertips. Or you could use the knuckles of your fingers. Either way will work. Then cover your dough. And we're going to set it aside for about 30 minutes until it's about double in size. And your oven is preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, so you'll be ready to finish this delicious focaccia bread. Take those beautiful grape tomatoes that we prepared and press them into the dough. You know, I spaced them apart about the distance that it would be if I was cutting so that everyone would get a delicious bite of yummy tomato. And next we have our beautiful garlic, rosemary oil that we want to drizzle onto our entire top. Making sure you get all that garlic onto the top of the delicious focaccia bread. This is what makes the difference. This is where the deliciousness is. Spread it around. Take your time, make it beautiful. And then finally, shredded Parmesan cheese. Not a whole lot. You don't want to bury the focaccia bread in the Parmesan cheese, but you do want to have enough of the salty, cheesy goodness that every bite will be just filled with deliciousness. And there we have it. Into the oven now, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 20 minutes. And here we have our straight from the oven focaccia bread, which I'll cool for about 20 minutes. You'll find that your focaccia bread will slide easily out of the pan onto a breadboard for serving. And you'll want a pizza wheel in order to make easy cutting of the focaccia bread. Cut it, serve it with some fresh basil pesto, and your guests and family will eat it up.